We have another special episode of Classis Wisconsin Weekly. We don't always have people in person, and our setup down here is such that you can't see both of us at the same time. So, ta-da, Pastor Ben Johnson, who is my predecessor here at Oostburg Christian Reformed Church. So that's the Classis Wisconsin connection, but also supported by a handful of churches in the Classis as a missionary now to Thailand, which I think I can call you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should have straightened that off the record. But Ben, introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, my name is Ben Johnson. I grew up in Oostburg. Oostburg's been most of my life until high school when I went off to college and seminary. And then I think, largely my connection to Classis Wisconsin is my connection to First CRC in Oostburg, where between 2005 and 2014, I was the youth pastor here at the church. So almost right out of seminary until about a year before we left for Thailand. This is where we're working now.
Do you remember, so 2005 to 2014, I graduated in 11. And I know for sure that was all my high school years, but would that also work out 2007? So yeah, at the time, middle school youth group was probably 7th and 8th grade only.
Yep.
So I probably had you all the way through. So
yeah, I think so.
There we go.
Awesome.
Anyways, continue on.
Yeah. 2014, we started working on heading toward the mission field. We finished working here. I actually was a chaplain in the Air Force as well, Wisconsin Air National Guard at the time. Kind of wrapped all that up, finished raising our support in that year, and then we left for the mission field in 2015 to work in the city of Chiang Mai, Thailand. Yep.
Chiang Mai, Thailand. Why?
So, as you remember, Zach, back in 2010, we took the youth group to Bangkok, Thailand, to work alongside a missionary that our church supports. His name.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Interjection.
Yep.
I was going to correct you because I didn't think it was 2010. I thought it was when I was a freshman, which would have been 2008. But 2008 was when we went to, was it Mississippi?
Mississippi.
And do you remember me getting sick the first night of the mission trip and missing most of the work days?
I do. I do remember now that you say that. Yep.
Anyways,
sure did.
2010 we went to Thailand.
2010 was
Take it from
Thailand.
there.
Yeah. So the church supported a missionary named Dave Valtorst, who's now a pastor here in Oostburg.
Yep.
And he worked in Bangkok, Thailand. And we went there with the whole youth group. To be honest, I was wanting to get into missions at the time, which is in part my motivation for loving mission trips and wanting to do them. But I was thinking other places. I felt at the time a tug towards a place in Africa. And I literally, like a month before we left, was told by the organization that I was hoping to go with to a specific location. Hey, by the way, there's been a miscommunication. That place can't take you.
Oh, man.
And so, but it was very providential. We landed in Thailand, and while we were there, got to see what Thailand is, what the people are like. It was very different than I thought it was going to be. And I remember,
How so, can I ask?
I had a perception that the people, I had a perception of East Asia as being like very driven, very type A, very, just kind of more of a driven culture, detail oriented, that kind of a thing, and difficult to build deep relationships with if you're an outsider. What I encountered when I got there was very warm people, obviously a warm climate as well, but a culture that was very, if you show up a little bit late, no worries. It was very laid back, very friendly, and I loved it. And while we were there, Dave said, "You should come work here." And he actually, going back to Chiang Mai, why Chiang Mai? He actually was saying to me and my wife eventually as well, why don't you come and start a new team up in the city of Chiang Mai? In part because he had a relationship with somebody up there. He wanted someone to help work with him a little more closely. So there was talk of building up a new team with that organization at the time.
Talk a little bit about the city of Chiang Mai.
Chiang Mai's up in northern Thailand. So a lot of people when they think of Thailand, they think of beaches, or they maybe think of Bangkok temples. But we are up in northern Thailand. We're up in the mountains. We're actually living the city's in a river valley in between mountain. We're basically surrounded on basically three sides by mountains. And it's very green, really beautiful. In fact, a lot of Bangkok folks will come up to us for vacation. So it's a great place to live. It's cooler, I'd say cooler than Bangkok, but it's still pretty warm. But it's a nice vacation spot for a lot of folks who want to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. But it is still a city. It's the whole metro area. I've heard it's about 1 million people.
Oh wow!
City proper, maybe very close to the situation with Milwaukee. Milwaukee is about same with Chiang Mai is about 300,000, I think, city proper, but about 1 million in the metro area as a whole. So think about the size of Milwaukee.
Yeah. What about the spiritual sense in Chiang Mai? How would you describe it?
It is very much the culture, the religious culture. Thai people in general would identify themselves as Buddhist, but especially in northern Thailand, they are animist. There's a lot of animism mixed into that, which means local spirits, like each village has its own spirits, literally down to trees. Like this tree would, spirits live in the individual trees and things like that.
Some kind of pantheism.
Yeah. Yep. But very geographic in nature. So if you clear your house, if you clear a spot of land to build your house on, you build a little spirit house in the corner of that land in order to give those spirits that you have effectively evicted from that land.
Right, yeah.
You've given them a place to live, and then you bring offerings to that spirit house every day as a way of saying.
Offerings in the form of?
Interestingly enough, sometimes food, snacky sort of things, a little bit of rice, some fruit, things like that. And often folks will use strawberry Fanta. If you think about strawberry Fanta, it's a nice dark red color. It looks just like blood.
Is that intentional?
Yes. Yep. Because it is, in the past, in the old days, my understanding is they used to give like chicken blood would be part of the offering they would give. But now instead of that, the modern version is strawberry Fanta.
And so, I was there with you in 2010, and I remember seeing some of these little temples, just right on the sidewalk or something like that sometimes. And there would be physical food there. So let me ask this as, ignorant as I am. Nothing happens to the food. How is that understood in the culture there? Does that mean the spirit is displeased? Is the spirit partaking of the food in another realm?
Right.
What would be the understanding of why that offering is not
I don't
taken?
think they see it as them being displeased. I think they understand that it isn't just going to disappear. So they'll clean it up the next day, like every day it gets cleaned up. Actually, in the morning when they come out with the new stuff, they take the old stuff away. And so, to be honest, I'm not sure how they perceive of the spirit partaking in it. So I will say this, there's an interesting story. This goes toward the animist stuff. There's an old legend in the mountain very near our house. It used to be kind of behind our house. The legend is there were two giants that lived on the mountain behind our house. And these giants ate up. They were super hungry. They ate all the time, and they would steal sheep and all the cat and the livestock of the local people. Eventually, they ran out of livestock because they ate so much, and they started eating the people. And again, this is hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago was the legend. Eventually, the people, because they started eating the people, they cried out to Buddha, and Buddha appeared to the giants and told them, "You are no longer allowed to eat meat ever." And they begged and pleaded. They said, "We love meat so much. Can we at least eat it once a year?" And he said, "Yes, you may eat it once a year." And so they were allowed once a year to eat meat. Eventually, these giants died, but the spirits of those giants continue to live on that mountain. And once a year, there is an actual, not this day, but one time a year, there's a ceremony where they get a shaman. He drinks a lot of like rice whiskey, a lot of alcohol, gets drunk, he invites the spirits of the giants to possess him. They slaughter a water buffalo and lay it out on the ground, and he effectively rolls around in the raw meat of the water buffalo and eats the meat on their behalf. And when the spirits are satiated, and you have to understand the weather by us, there's like no wind. But when the giants are satiated, they have this tapestry that they hang from a tree. And when they're happy, that tapestry starts to move, like the wind is blowing, even though the wind isn't blowing. So again, you can see it's geographic. These are spirits that live on this mountain.
Yeah.
They ask for specific things. And in fact, you're asking the question, how do they perceive them eating? In this case, they have someone eat on their behalf.
Sure.
That kind of thing. So.
Interesting. What, so people of different spiritual backgrounds have different on-ramps, connections to the gospel. So say you're part of a really legalistic religion or cult. The freedom or grace of Christ might be a really significant on-ramp to the gospel.
Right.
What would that be for the Buddhist or the animist?
I think if you're talking, especially if you're talking Buddhism, if you ask them, for them it's going on to a better life afterwards. How do you ensure that you go on? Because it's this cycle of lives, right? You go on to better and better lives until you reach nirvana is the idea. And you're disconnected from the physical world. But for them, that happens by doing good works in this life. I think for some people, for pretty much anybody, any good Buddhist will tell you, you really don't know if you've done enough to go on to the next life. All you know is continue to do more. And I think for some people who are honest and they really live out that Buddhism, how much do I need to do? How long do I need to keep doing this? Am I ever going to achieve that? There's just a lack of surety in that. And so I think the gospel does say to them, it isn't depending on you and how much you've done. It all depends on Jesus and what he's done for you. I think honestly, a big piece for most people, because not everybody, that's like the Martin Luthers, you know what I mean, who really pushed that deep into the law side of life, right? And let's be honest, even in European culture, a guy like that, you're like, that was a little unusual personality-wise, you know? But I think for them, relationship is everything. So, and it continues to be everything. So if you can build friendships, like a lot of things in life, you're doing evangelism, you don't just cold hand someone a tract and they immediately come to Christ. That's rare.
Yeah.
It's usually you build a relationship, you become friends, you chat about stuff, and they see in you someone who's different than what they're used to seeing. Because there is, what's the word I'm looking for? People who are living sort of hypocritical Buddhist lives as well. So they will, they say I'm Buddhist.
Yeah.
Or like the classic example that even Thai people complain about is the movie star who they know is living a life that they shouldn't live. And then they show up at the temple with, millions of baht and they give a big, huge donation.
Yeah.
And they take a lot of pictures because it's a PR event too.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, come on.
Not a lot different than here. Huh?
Right. There's the hypocritical side of life there just as much as there is here. So.
Well, interesting. Well, our follow-up is typically, first, one more question. Again, sorry, pardon my ignorance, but typically in Eastern Asian or Southeast Asian cultures, there's a strong extended family connection, and religious conviction is a major or the major part of that tie. Is there a significant cost to taking up the cross of Christ in Chiang Mai, Thailand? Have you encountered that?
Yeah, and I said, like you're saying, I think it's largely relationship and family kind of stuff. I forgot to follow up on what I said before, where relationships become super important because, Thai people will also often say to be Thai is to be Buddhist. So for somebody to walk away from being Buddhist is perceived often by others that you are leaving who you are supposed to be, not just religiously, but culturally, and just who you are as a Thai person. And so people often feel like they're being made out to be, in a sense, sellouts to Western people, because a lot of Thai people perceive Christianity to be the religion of the European Westerners, Americans, all that kind of stuff. And they will say that. Jesus is the God of the Westerners. So anyway, you're leaving that, you're walking away from it, and the religious responsibility to make merit on behalf of your deceased parents. So you can get your parents onto a better life by making merit on their behalf. So in a sense, if your parents aren't believers, if they're still Buddhist, and then you walk away from that and say, I can't go to temple anymore, Now you're saying to your parents, I'm sorry, I can't make merit for you anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a big one.
Yeah.
So in a sense, the church then has to become a form of family. for
Yeah.
these
So
people.
that's what my follow-up was going to be. You're talking about the importance of relationship
Yep.
and sincerity. But it's not just relationship. It's like the Christian community, the church in Thailand has to demonstrate that they are as strong or stronger than the family, right? For
Yeah, in a
me
way.
to leave and in a sense lose, right?
Right.
My family to join the church, that church better demonstrate some pretty real community.
While also honoring cultural expectations of, you don't want to have a bad witness the Bible does say honor your father and mother. And that includes if they're still Buddhist.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And so for the church to say, continue to honor your father and mother, but do it in a way that you can as a Christian. Don't disobey Jesus. Your honor to him is always higher than anyone else. But you can continue to honor your parents, despite your theological, your religious differences, even while you come to us. So yes, being that person's family while encouraging them to stay engaged in their family in every way that they can. That's a
Right.
tough balance.
Yeah, totally. So in Thailand, there's this religion of the West, right? That they engage with and have to deal with. In the West, there's been a rise of this Eastern religion.
Right.
So it may not be called Buddhism.
Kind of neo-paganism.
Right.
Yeah, right.
What kind of advice would you give Christians in the West who are encountering, we call it New Age, but this Eastern spiritualism,
Right.
like what kinds of things ought we to keep in our mind?
Right. I think it's been helpful for me seeing the Thai worldview and realizing that just because we disagree with certain parts of the Thai worldview doesn't mean that there are bits and pieces of it that are actually accurate. So, for example, spirits do exist, right? There is a spiritual world beyond what we can see, whereas we as Westerners sort of act like it doesn't exist. The biblical worldview says there are spirits.
Yeah, amen.
And so I think for me, when I talk to Thai people who, for them, that's an important issue is the spiritual things. Like I've been preaching or teaching through the book of Mark, and one of the things in there is Jesus' power over evil spirits. We can say to them, Jesus, yes, there are spirits out there. Some of them are evil, but Jesus, God, is the creator of them as well, and is the supreme spirit being over them and us. And so giving your devotion to him. And so I think you tie it back to America, a lot of people will say, I'm spiritual, but I don't have a specific religion.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's like taking the phone. Like if you got a medical problem, that's like taking we don't have phone books anymore, but it's like in the old days, taking the phone book and going bap and pointing to a number and saying, I want that person to be my doctor. Well, if the world is full of spirits, why are you randomly allowing whichever spirit happens to pass you that day to be the one that cares for you? Right? So you want to know that the spirit that you're going to is actually there for your benefit and not your detriment.
Yeah.
And
powerful enough to help.
And powerful, absolutely, right.
Wow. Anyways, a long way around to get to my second question, which is, what are you working on? So you're obviously not in Thailand because you're here with me.
Right.
We're in Ben's basement.
Yes. I didn't even have to put shoes on.
Yeah.
In keeping with Thai culture, I just walked downstairs.
Excellent.
Still in my socks.
What are you working on these days?
So these days we're here in the U.S. Raising support, in part for our family. So we go back with a full budget ready to go, and we're doing pretty well there. We do need a little bit of support there. But also one of the things we're working on in Thailand, the heart of our ministry, the motto that I like to use is empowering Thai pastors to plant Thai churches that reach Thai people. So rather than us plant the church, they are the ones that do the church planting work, and we come alongside to try to remove roadblocks, help overcome struggles, and empower them to do that for themselves. A lot of benefits to that. One of the big things we're doing right now, some of the struggles that they have communicated to us, number one, poverty is a real issue for them. Most Thai churches are very small, 50 or less, often in the 20s zone. And the people who are coming are often, at least the people we work with, pretty poor to begin with, financially speaking, poor. That's not the case of every church. There's big churches down in Bangkok with people who make lots of money. But a lot of the ones we interact with are dealing with poverty. So that's one issue. Another is finding people who would want to come and be a church planting pastor. Because if you just walk into a seminary, most of the people in there are there having their tuition bills paid for by a church that is planning to have them come back and work for them. So a lot of people are already spoken for. Another issue is we were speaking about the gospel, helping people really get a good grasp of the gospel. So if this version of Buddhism is very, in a sense, legalistic, works in, results out, that doesn't just go away immediately when you bring people to the gospel. Oh, yeah. So helping to disciple people toward, you come in by grace through faith. You are also sanctified by grace through faith, right? I mean, we work, right? Yeah. We do good works, but that happens because of the work of God's grace in us and changing of our hearts and all that kind of stuff. So helping to disciple people toward that, so the teaching that comes from the pulpit doesn't continue to hold on to that sort of a bit of legalism in there. And there's some other leadership as well. Leadership culture in Thailand is it's called a high power distance culture. So when people are leaders, their followers tend to put them on a very high pedestal. And there's a distance culturally between a leader and a follower. And often for pastors, that means loneliness. That means a lack of accountability for a number of reasons.
So is an idea like the priesthood of all believers really difficult to accomplish in a Thai church?
Yeah, it is
equipping
an issue.
Thai people to participate in a worship service and share. And
for a couple of reasons. Finding, like a lot of places in the church, and I'm careful to say this, women often get involved a lot in the church, but finding men, getting men to come to church at all is difficult. And so raising up of leaders among men is that much more difficult, because if they're not even coming in the door as believers, how do you find people who are mature is a big struggle. But also that dynamic that we're talking about of that, and in one sense, so I'm about to say something that's going to sound negative about theological education, but there's almost this attitude of like, if you haven't been to seminary, you shouldn't. It's almost like for example, they will ask me to run the PowerPoint. You know what I mean?
Because you've been to seminary?
Because not only that, but I'm a leader in the church. Okay. And so they see, I can participate in the leadership, but you don't need to go to seminary to push a button. No, right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there is that struggle as well. That being said, I think it's good. I would rather have the emphasis on encouraging theological education versus not, so that you don't have other problems down the road. But there's kind of that issue too. So
if people were interested in supporting you or praying for you, what would they need to know? Right.
Real quick follow-up on what we're doing with those issues. One of the things I'm doing, no worries, is starting an online business. It's called Flight Nerd Air Force. I went to school to be a missionary pilot, missionary aviation. And so the business online is teaching people to prepare for their FAA written exams. Now, I only picked that because it's something I know.
Sure.
So what we're going to do with that is charge money for memberships to the website. With that money, we're going to hire people that would make good Thai elders or deacons. We train them to do their jobs. We disciple them to understand the gospel. If they're entrepreneurially minded, we teach them how to start a business similar to what we're doing in a topic that they know and can teach, right? And then we teach them how to be a good elder or deacon in a church plant. When the day comes down the road, when they're ready and a pastor is ready, and we've worked with both of them to pick a place where they would like to go, we put them together with a Thai pastor, send them off as a church planting team that has a plurality of leadership, it's not just one pastor, that elder or deacon or whoever has at least an income and maybe a small business that can help support his own family and the ministry of the church. They're mature in the gospel. They've been trained how to do church planting. So they're going as a healthy church planting team. That's the heart of the whole thing. So
awesome. I love it. I'll ask again.
Yeah.
If we're interested in supporting you or praying for you, what will we need to know?
I would say if you want to check out our website, there's always new information on how do you want to make.
I always put everybody's links in the description. If you're on podcast, you can normally get it there too. Oh yeah, it's just cards I can't do in the podcast. Anyways, you can find it in the description.
Our website is www.benandbeccajohnson.com, or if you want to check out the business side of it, it is flightnerdairforce.com.
BenJohnson.com was probably taken by that fast Canadian guy.
It could very well be. I have Pastor Ben Johnson.
There we go. Maybe he'll become a pastor.
We are looking for people who'd like to invest in the launch of Flight Nerd Air Force. We have a relationship with an organization that will allow us to receive nonprofit donations for the purposes of a for-profit business. So you can even get your donations written off your taxes and all that kind of stuff. It's great. Just pray for, we need teammates to come to help us be on our team and help us do what we do. We have other people from our organization in country with us now. It was not like that for probably 2.5 years after we went. So with our organization, 2.5 years, we were there by ourselves. And then, in fact, our boss was in Austria. That's how far away our boss was. But now we have, my boss is now in Chiang Mai, and we have some other people doing some really good work in closed countries that I can't talk about. So doing cool stuff though. Anyway, so we have people there, but none of them are doing exactly the kind of ministry we're doing. And we have a lot to do. And so there's always way more to do than I can accomplish. So praying for people to come. We have an internship for those who are post high school and would like to come maybe help out with the online business and see some of the ministry locations and meet the people that we're working with.
How long is the internship?
It's about just shy of 60 days. So I think like 58, 59 days, something like that. Early June to early August. Cool. So,
well, thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
Appreciate you
coming
downstairs.
All the way. It was a long commute.